The first time Isadora Saint realized she was invisible, she was standing 3 feet away from a man being murdered. Not literally murdered, but close enough. Killian Knight sat behind his mahogany desk in his Chicago penthouse office, fingers steepled under his chin, watching his underboss confess to skimming money from the family accounts. Isadora stood by the bookshelf, silver tray balanced on her palm, watching everything while appearing to watch nothing at all. 200,000, Killian said finally. His voice was quiet, terrifyingly quiet. Desmond stammered something about his daughter's medical bills. About desperate times. About loyalty that surely counted for something after 15 years of service. Killian stood, walked around the desk, put his hand on Desmond's shoulder. "You're fired," he said. "Pack your things. Leave Chicago. If I see you again, we'll have a different conversation." Desmond stumbled out, probably thinking he'd gotten lucky. Isadora knew better. She'd worked for Killian Knight for 3 years, and she understood something most people missed. He wasn't cruel. He was calculating. And somehow that was worse. "Miss Saint," Killian said without turning around. "What did you think?" She blinked. He never asked her opinion. She was the help. The phantom who brought his coffee at 6 a.m., laid out his suits, managed his household staff, and disappeared into the wallpaper. "I think Desmond's daughter doesn't actually need surgery," Isadora said carefully. "I think he has a gambling problem and a girlfriend in Milwaukee." Killian turned then. Looked at her. His eyes were gray, like Chicago winter skies. "How did you know that?" "I pay attention," she said simply. "It's my job." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or curiosity. Then it was gone, replaced by his usual mask of cool indifference. "Thank you," he said. "That will be all." But it wasn't all. Because 2 days later, Killian Knight called her into his office at midnight and asked her to sit down. Isadora had no idea that her life was about to change forever. If you're ready to see how a shadow becomes a queen, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss a single chapter of this journey. Now back to the office? Isadora hesitated. She'd been about to leave for the night, her sensible shoes already hurting from 14 hours on her feet. Her dark hair was coming loose from its bun, and she probably had coffee stains on her sleeve. This was not the time for whatever this was. "I need your help with something," Killian said. He looked tired. Which was weird because Killian Knight didn't do tired. He did controlled and distant and occasionally terrifying, but never vulnerable. "Of course, Mr. Knight. What do you need?" "Call me Killian," he said. "And I need you to teach me how to be invisible." She stared at him. "I'm sorry, what?" He ran a hand through his black hair, messing it up in a way that made him look younger. Less like a mafia boss, more like a regular person. "You see everything. You know everything that happens in this house, in my organization, but nobody notices you. That's a skill. I need to learn it." "You're 6'3" and you run the Chicago underworld," Isadora pointed out. "Invisible isn't really your brand." "That's the problem," Killian said. He leaned forward, and for the first time since she'd started working for him, he looked almost desperate. "Someone's trying to kill me. Someone close. And I can't figure out who because everyone's too busy performing for me. But you see them when they think nobody's watching." Isadora's heart did this weird stuttering thing. "So you want me to spy for you?" "I want you to teach me how you do what you do," he corrected. "And yes, maybe help me figure out who wants me dead." She wanted to say no. But something about the way he looked at her, like she was real, like she mattered, made her pause. "Okay," she said. "But I have conditions." His eyebrows rose. "You're negotiating with me?" "You asked for my help," Isadora said. She straightened her spine, tried to look more confident than she felt. "That means I get to set terms." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "All right, name them." "First, you actually listen when I talk. Second, you stop calling me Miss Saint like I'm 80 years old. Third, you let me do this my way, which means sometimes you're going to feel stupid and uncomfortable." "Done," Killian said immediately. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow," Isadora said. 6 a.m. Wear something ordinary. The next morning, Killian Knight showed up in jeans and a plain black t-shirt, and Isadora almost laughed. He looked so wrong, like a lion trying to pretend it was a house cat. First lesson, she said, handing him a coffee cup. We're going to the Navy Pier, and you're going to practice being nobody. The tourist trap? He looked offended. I haven't been there since I was 12. Exactly, Isadora said. Nobody there knows who you are. You can practice blending in. They took the train. Killian kept looking around like the subway might explode, which, fair, he probably always traveled by private car. Isadora watched him try to figure out how to stand, where to look, how to hold his body like he wasn't important. You're doing it wrong, she murmured as they exited at the pier. You're trying too hard. Being invisible isn't about hiding. It's about becoming part of the background noise. How? Stop thinking you're special, Isadora said. Then, because that came out harsher than intended, she added, I mean, stop acting like you're special. Walk like you're tired. Like you've got 3 jobs and 2 kids and you're just trying to get through the day. Think about normal people stuff, like grocery list and bills. Killian really tried. But every time someone bumped into him, his shoulders would tense, and his hand would twitch toward his pocket where he usually kept a weapon. Isadora kept having to remind him to relax, to breathe, to stop looking like he wanted to murder everyone in a 5-foot radius. They bought overpriced hot dogs and sat on a bench overlooking Lake Michigan. The summer sun was hot on Isadora's face, and for a moment, she forgot this was work. Forgot that Killian Knight was technically her boss and definitely dangerous. Why do you do it? Killian asked suddenly. The invisible thing. Isadora took a bite of her hot dog, buying time. It's safer, she said finally. If people don't notice you, they can't hurt you. Someone hurt you, Killian said. It wasn't a question. She didn't answer. Didn't want to talk about her father, who'd gambled away everything they had. About her mother, who'd left when Isadora was 10. About learning early that the best way to survive was to be useful and quiet and forgettable. I'm guessing someone hurt you too, she said instead. Otherwise you wouldn't need to learn this. Killian was quiet for a long moment. My father, he said eventually. He taught me that power was everything. That fear was respect. But he was wrong. Fear just makes people desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. Like try to kill you. So you want to lead differently, Isadora said. Understanding clicked into place. You want to actually know your people instead of just controlling them. Something like that, Killian said. He looked at her, and Isadora felt heat creep up her neck. You're smart, you know that? I know, she said, trying to sound casual. You're just the first person who's noticed. They spent the whole day at the pier. Killian practiced being ordinary, and Isadora practiced being visible. She bought them Italian ice, and they played one of those rigged carnival games until Killian got frustrated and probably wanted to threaten the operator but didn't because Isadora was watching. She laughed when he failed to knock down the bottles, and he looked at her like he'd never heard her laugh before. Which, to be fair, he probably hadn't. This is weird, Killian said as they walked back toward the train. The sunset was painting the sky orange and pink, and tourists were starting to thin out. What is this? He gestured between them. I don't have friends. Just employees and associates and people who want something from me. I'm still your employee, Isadora pointed out. Right? Killian said. But something in his voice suggested he wasn't entirely convinced anymore. That night, back at the penthouse, Isadora was organizing Killian's schedule when he appeared in the doorway of her small office. Tomorrow night, he said. There's a family dinner. All the captains and their wives. I need you there. I'm always there, Isadora said. I serve the food. No, Killian said. I need you there as a guest. To watch. To tell me what you see. Isadora's stomach dropped. I can't do that. I'm the help. If I suddenly show up as a guest, everyone will know something's wrong. Then we'll make up a story, Killian said. He was using his boss voice now, the one that didn't accept arguments. You're my consultant. My advisor. Whatever. But I need your eyes on this, Isadora. The way he said her name made her shiver. Like it meant something. Like SHE meant something. Fine, she said. But you're buying me a dress. I'm not showing up in my work clothes. Killian smiled, and Isadora realized with growing horror that she was in big trouble. Because Killian Knight wasn't supposed to smile at her like that. And she definitely wasn't supposed to like it. The next evening, Isadora stood in front of her bathroom mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress Killian had sent over was dark blue, simple but expensive, and it made her look like someone important. Someone who mattered. She'd left her hair down for once, and the unfamiliar weight of it against her shoulders felt strange. When she walked into the main dining room, conversation stopped. 12 sets of eyes turned toward her, and Isadora fought every instinct that screamed at her to run. Killian stood from his seat at the head of the table. Everyone, this is Isadora Saint. She's consulting on some business matters and will be joining us tonight. The lie hung in the air. Isadora could see the questions in everyone's faces, the suspicion. But nobody argued. Not with Killian Knight. Dinner was tense. The captains and their wives made small talk, but Isadora could feel the undercurrents of tension, of secrets and grudges and unspoken threats. She ate slowly, watched carefully, and listened to everything. Antonio Rossi, the oldest captain, kept checking his phone under the table. His wife, Maria, looked miserable. Francesco Dante spoke too loud and laughed too hard at Killian's jokes. His girlfriend, some young blonde whose name Isadora missed, looked bored. Vincent Theodore was quiet, watchful, calculating. And then there was Sophia Marino. Sophia was beautiful in that effortless way some women managed, with perfect hair and perfect makeup and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She sat directly across from Killian, and Isadora noticed how she leaned in when he talked, how her hand occasionally brushed his arm. "So, Isadora," Sophia said sweetly, "how long have you been working for Killian?" The emphasis on working was subtle but clear. Isadora felt her face heat. 3 years, she said evenly. "And he never mentioned you," Sophia continued. "How strange. We tell each other everything." The implication was obvious. Sophia and Killian had history. Maybe current history. And Isadora was the outsider who didn't belong. "I prefer to stay behind the scenes," Isadora said. She took a sip of wine, tried to look unbothered. "It's more effective that way." "I'm sure," Sophia said. Her smile was razor-sharp. Under the table, Killian's foot touched Isadora's. Just briefly, a small gesture of solidarity. She glanced at him, and he gave her the tiniest nod. Like he was saying, "You're doing fine." After dinner, the men retreated to Killian's study for brandy and cigars, and Isadora found herself trapped in the living room with the wives and girlfriends. This was going to be torture. "So you're not actually dating him," Maria Rossi said. It wasn't a question. "No," Isadora said. "I'm really just working with him." "Good," Maria said. She looked tired, sad. "Because men like them, they don't know how to love anything except power. My Antonio, he used to bring me flowers. Used to remember my birthday. Now he just brings home blood on his shirts and lies about where he's been." The blonde girlfriend, whose name turned out to be Kayla, rolled her eyes. "God, Maria, you're so dramatic. They're not that bad." "You're 23, Maria said quietly. "Give it time." Sophia said nothing, but Isadora caught her watching with that same cold smile. Later, when the guests finally left, Killian found Isadora in the kitchen. She was washing wine glasses and cleaning the kitchen. "What did you see?" he asked. Isadora dried her hands on a towel. "Antonio's hiding something. He's scared. Francesco's trying too hard to seem confident, which usually means he's not. Vincent's planning something, but I can't tell what. And Sophia." "What about Sophia?" Killian's voice was carefully neutral. "She hates me," Isadora said. She tried to make it sound like a joke, but it came out flat. "I'm guessing you two have history." "Had," Killian corrected. "She wanted something I couldn't give her." "What?" "A commitment," Killian said. He moved closer, and Isadora's heart started doing that stupid fluttering thing again. She wanted to be the wife of a mafia boss. "I wanted someone who saw me as more than just that." The kitchen suddenly felt too small. "And did you find that someone?" Isadora asked. Her voice came out quieter than intended. Killian looked at her for a long moment. Maybe, he said. I'm starting to think I did. Isadora couldn't sleep that night. She kept replaying Killian's words, the way he'd looked at her in the kitchen, the weight of possibility hanging between them. This was dangerous. He was her boss, and also a crime boss, and she was apparently losing her mind. At 3 a.m., she gave up and went to make tea. The penthouse was dark except for the city lights filtering through the windows. Chicago never really slept, and neither, apparently, did she. Couldn't sleep either, a voice said from the shadows, and Isadora jumped, nearly dropping her mug. Killian sat in one of the leather chairs by the window, still wearing his dress shirt from dinner, though he'd loosened the tie. He looked exhausted. You scared me, Isadora said. Her heart was racing, though that might not be entirely from surprise. Sorry, he said. I do that a lot, apparently. She carried her tea over and sat in the chair across from him. The city sprawled below them, millions of lives, all completely unaware that two people were sitting here in the dark, trying to figure out what they were doing. I keep thinking about what Maria said, Isadora admitted. About men like you not knowing how to love anything except power. She's not wrong, Killian said. My father was like that. Every relationship was transactional. Every connection was leverage. I grew up thinking that was normal. But you don't think that anymore, Isadora said. It wasn't a question. No, Killian said. Or maybe I'm trying not to. It's hard to unlearn 30 years of conditioning. He paused. You make it look easy. The caring thing. It's not easy, Isadora said. I just hide it better. Being invisible means nobody knows when you're hurting. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking tea and watching the city. Eventually, Killian spoke again. I need to tell you something, he said. Sophia called me after she left. She knows something's different. She's suspicious. Of what? Of you, Killian said. Of whatever this is becoming. And what is this becoming? Isadora asked. Her hands were shaking slightly, so she set down her mug. Killian turned to face her fully. I don't know. But I know I've never met anyone like you. Someone who sees me as just Killian instead of Killian Knight, heir to the Empire. Someone who tells me when I'm being an idiot. Someone who makes me want to be better than what my father made me. That's a lot of pressure to put on your housekeeper, Isadora said, trying to lighten the mood. You stopped being just my housekeeper the moment you agreed to help me, Killian said. And we both know it. He was right. Everything had shifted, and there was no going back to before. This is complicated, Isadora said finally. I know. And probably a bad idea. Definitely a bad idea, Killian agreed. But I can't seem to make myself care, he said. And that's terrifying because I've spent my entire life being careful. Never letting anyone get close enough to hurt me. Isadora understood. She'd lived the same way, just from the opposite direction. He'd built walls from power and fear. She'd built them from invisibility and silence. But somehow they'd both ended up in the same place. Alone. So what do we do? She asked. Killian stood and held out his hand. We take it one day at a time. We figure out who's trying to kill me. We see what happens. Isadora looked at his outstretched hand. Taking it meant stepping out of the shadows and into something uncertain and possibly dangerous and definitely complicated. She took it anyway. His hand was warm, solid, and when he pulled her to her feet, they stood close enough that she could see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes. One day at a time, she agreed. The next morning felt different. Isadora still made Killian's coffee, still organized his schedule, but now he'd look up and smile when she entered the room. Small smiles, private ones, like they shared a secret. Which they did, she supposed. We need to do something about Antonio, Killian said over breakfast. He was eating the eggs she'd made while scrolling through something on his tablet. His behavior last night confirms your suspicions. He's either stealing or working with someone who is. Or he's being blackmailed, Isadora suggested. She poured herself coffee and sat down across from him. Maria looked devastated. Maybe someone's threatening his family. Killian looked up. That's smart. More humane than my first instinct. Which was? Have Vincent follow him and break his kneecaps if necessary, Killian said matter-of-factly. Isadora choked on her coffee. That's terrible. It's effective. It's violent and cruel and exactly the kind of thing that makes people want to kill you, Isadora said. She set down her mug firmly. You said you wanted to be different. So be different. Talk to Antonio. Actually ask him what's wrong instead of assuming the worst. Killian studied her. You really believe people deserve second chances? I believe people make mistakes when they're desperate, Isadora said. And I believe you're better than your father. Something softened in Killian's expression. Okay, he said. We'll try it your way. But if he's actually betraying us, we handle it my way. Deal, Isadora said. That afternoon, Antonio Rossi sat in Killian's office, looking like he might pass out from fear. Isadora stood by the window, present but quiet, watching. I know you're in trouble, Killian said. His voice was calm, almost gentle, and Isadora could see Antonio's surprise. I want to help, but you need to tell me what's happening. Antonio's hands shook. They have photos, he said finally, of me with someone who's not my wife. They're threatening to send them to Maria, to everyone, unless I give them information about your operations. Who are they? Killian asked. I don't know, Antonio said miserably. They contact me through burner phones. They know everything about me, about my family. They said if I told you, they'd kill my daughter. Isadora's chest tightened. This was worse than stealing money. This was calculated, cruel. The affair, Killian said. When did it start? 6 months ago, Antonio admitted. It was stupid, I know. I love Maria, but she was so depressed after the baby, and this other woman, she made me feel young again. I ended it 3 months ago, but they must have been watching the whole time. Photos can be destroyed, Killian said. Threats can be neutralized. But I need names, Antonio. Who are you giving information to? A man named Richard, Antonio said. That's all I know. He meets me in Grant Park every Friday. Takes envelopes of documents, pays me in cash that I have to accept or they'll know I told someone. Killian glanced at Isadora. She gave a small nod. This felt real. Antonio wasn't betraying them willingly. He was trapped. Here's what we're going to do, Killian said. You're going to keep meeting Richard, but the documents you give him will be fake. Information we want him to have. And we're going to figure out who he works for and end this. Antonio looked like he might cry with relief. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I never wanted. Go home to your wife, Killian interrupted gently. Tell her the truth about the affair. Better she hears it from you than from strangers. She'll probably be angry. Maybe she'll leave. But she deserves honesty. After Antonio left, Isadora turned to Killian. That was good. What you just did. I had a good teacher, Killian said. Someone who keeps reminding me that people are complicated. That fear isn't the same as loyalty. You're learning, Isadora said. Slowly, Killian agreed. But I'm trying. He paused. Thank you. For being here. For helping me see things differently. You're welcome, Isadora said. And then, because she felt brave, she added, Want to get out of here? Do something normal? Like what? I don't know. Mini-golf? A movie? Something that doesn't involve death threats and family drama? Killian laughed, and the sound made Isadora's heart do gymnastics. Mini-golf, he said. I haven't played mini-golf since I was 16. Perfect, Isadora said. You're probably terrible at it now. I was terrible at it then, Killian admitted. But sure. Let's go. They went to this ridiculous indoor mini-golf place in the suburbs, all black lights and neon colors and terrible pop music. Killian looked completely out of place in his expensive suit, but he'd agreed to leave his bodyguards behind, so it was just them. This is possibly the worst date ever, Killian said, trying to line up a shot around a giant purple windmill. Who said this was a date? Isadora teased. Fair point, Killian said. In which case, this is a great activity for two colleagues engaging in team building. Isadora laughed. Team building. Sure. That's what we're calling it. Killian missed the windmill shot by a mile, and his ball went flying off the course. A teenager working there had to fish it out from under a vending machine. Isadora tried not to laugh, failed completely. "You're enjoying this," Killian said. "Very much," Isadora confirmed. "It's nice seeing you be bad at something." "I'm bad at lots of things," Killian said. "Relationships. Feelings. Normal human interaction." "You're getting better," Isadora said. She lined up her own shot, sank it in 2 strokes. "See? Practice helps." They played all 18 holes, and Isadora won by a humiliating margin. Afterward, they got ice cream from a shop next door and sat in Killian's car, eating sundaes and watching people walk by. "This is nice," Killian said quietly. "Just existing. Not having to be on all the time." "That's the secret to invisibility," Isadora said. "Sometimes you just need to exist without performing." "Is that what you've been doing your whole life? Just existing?" "Mostly," Isadora admitted. "After my dad lost everything gambling, after my mom left, I learned that wanting things was dangerous. So I stopped wanting. Stopped hoping. Just focused on surviving." "And now?" Killian asked. Isadora looked at him. At this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who'd somehow seen her when everyone else looked through her. "Now I'm trying to remember how to want things again. It's scary." "What do you want?" "I don't know yet," Isadora said honestly. "But I think I'm starting to figure it out." Killian reached over and took her hand. Just held it, their fingers intertwined, while they finished their ice cream and watched the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. Later that week, Isadora stood in Grant Park, pretending to read a book while actually watching Antonio meet with Richard. She wore a baseball cap and sunglasses, dressed in jeans and a hoodie, completely unrecognizable as Killian Knight's elegant consultant. Richard was exactly what she expected. Middle-aged, average height, forgettable face. The kind of person who could disappear in a crowd. He took the envelope from Antonio, said something brief, and walked away. Isadora followed. She'd learned from the best, after all. Herself. She knew how to tail someone without being noticed, how to blend in with the other parkgoers. Richard led her through the loop, down into the subway, across town to a building in Ukrainian village. She took photos of the building, the street signs, Richard entering. Then she called Killian. "Got him," she said. 347 North Damon Avenue. 2nd floor apartment. "Good work," Killian said. "Come back. We'll send people to investigate." "Already on my way," Isadora said. When she got back to the penthouse, Killian was in his office with Vincent. They were studying maps, making plans. But when Isadora walked in, Killian looked up and smiled. "My favorite spy," he said. "Your only spy," Isadora corrected. "What's the plan?" "We're going to find out who Richard works for," Vincent said. "He was all business, no warmth. Then we're going to make them regret threatening one of ours." "Vincent prefers the direct approach," Killian said dryly. "The direct approach works," Vincent said. "Sometimes," Killian agreed. "But sometimes you need finesse. Strategy. Right, Isadora?" "Right," she said. Though honestly, she was starting to feel out of her depth. This wasn't making coffee or organizing schedules. This was real danger. That night, Isadora lay in bed, unable to sleep again. She kept thinking about Antonio's daughter, about Maria's sad eyes, about all the collateral damage that came from this life. Killian's life. A soft knock on her door made her sit up. "It's me," Killian's voice came through. "Can I come in?" Isadora grabbed a robe and opened the door. Killian stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking young and uncertain. "I couldn't sleep either," he said. "Seems to be a pattern with us," Isadora said. She let him in, and they sat on her bed, backs against the headboard. "I keep thinking about what you're getting into," Killian said. "Helping me. Getting involved in all this. It's dangerous, Isadora. People who get close to me tend to get hurt." "I know," she said. "And you're staying anyway?" "I'm staying anyway," Isadora confirmed. "Because somebody needs to make sure you don't turn into your father. And because, honestly, I'm tired of being invisible. Even if being visible is scary." "You're brave," Killian said. "Braver than me." "No," Isadora said. Just tired of being afraid. They sat in silence for a while, shoulders touching, finding comfort in proximity. Tell me something, Killian said eventually. Something real. Something nobody else knows. Isadora thought about it. I wanted to be a teacher, she said. Before everything fell apart. I wanted to teach literature, help kids discover stories. But after my dad's debts, after dropping out of college to work, I just let that dream go. Decided it was safer not to want things. You'd be a good teacher, Killian said. You're patient. You see people clearly. You make complicated things make sense. What about you? Isadora asked. What did you want to be before all this? Killian was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, a chef. Stupid, right? The heir to a criminal empire wanted to make pasta. Isadora turned to look at him. That's not stupid. That's beautiful. My father said it was weakness, Killian said. Said caring about something frivolous like food was a distraction. So I gave it up and focused on business. You could still cook, Isadora said gently. Nobody's stopping you. I don't even remember how, Killian admitted. It's been so long. Then we'll relearn together, Isadora said. Tomorrow. You teach me about food, I'll teach you about being present. Deal? Deal, Killian said. He smiled at her, soft and genuine. Thank you. For reminding me there's more to life than just surviving. Back at you, Isadora said. He left eventually, but the warmth of his presence lingered. Isadora fell asleep thinking about pasta and teaching and the possibility of wanting things again. The next evening, Killian's enormous kitchen became something it had probably never been before. A place of actual joy instead of just function. Isadora stood at the counter, flour dusting her hands, while Killian attempted to remember how to make pasta from scratch. It's not working, he said, frowning at the dough that refused to cooperate. This is harder than I remember. Maybe because you haven't done it in 10 years, Isadora pointed out. Come here. Let me try. She pressed her hands into the dough, feeling its texture. I think you need more water. And less aggression. You're treating it like an enemy instead of something you're creating. Philosophical pasta making, Killian said. But he added water, tried again with gentler hands. Better. Better, Isadora agreed. She stood beside him, and their shoulders bumped companionably. See? You're remembering. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, the rhythm of kneading and rolling almost meditative. Killian's face relaxed in a way Isadora had never seen before. He looked younger, lighter. My mother taught me, he said suddenly. Before she died. She grew up in Naples. Making pasta was her love language, I guess. Every Sunday, the whole family would gather, and she'd make enough food to feed an army. She sounds wonderful, Isadora said softly. She was, Killian said. She tried to balance out my father's harshness. Tried to teach me that strength and kindness weren't opposites. But then she got sick, and after she died, my father made sure I forgot all that soft nonsense. Isadora reached over and squeezed his hand, leaving flower prints on his skin. She'd be proud of you. For trying to remember. I hope so, Killian said. They made fettuccine alfredo, which wasn't fancy but tasted incredible because they'd made it together. They ate at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining room, sharing a bottle of wine and laughing when Killian got sauce on his shirt. This is my new favorite thing, Isadora said, watching the terrifying mafia boss struggle with basic cooking. I'm not that terrifying, Killian protested. You ordered someone's kneecaps broken last month. That was before you started reforming me, Killian said. I'm a changed man. Practically a pacifist. Sure, Isadora said. A pacifist with 3 guns in various rooms of this penthouse. 4 guns, Killian corrected. You missed the one in the library. They cleaned up together, and somewhere between washing dishes and putting away ingredients, Killian pulled her into a simple embrace, his arms around her, her head against his chest. It wasn't romantic exactly. Just 2 people who'd been alone for so long finally finding someone who understood. Thank you, Killian murmured. For this. For everything. You're welcome, Isadora said. Her heart was doing that flutter thing again, but she ignored it. Or tried to. The peaceful moment shattered when Killian's phone rang. He pulled away to answer, and Isadora watched his face change from relaxed to furious in seconds. "When?" he said into the phone. "Is he alive? Where is he now?" He hung up and turned to Isadora. "Antonio's been shot. Someone attacked him outside his house an hour ago. He's alive, but barely." Isadora's blood went cold. "Oh no. Maria. His daughter. They're safe," Killian said. "Vincent has people protecting them now. But this means whoever's behind this knows we figured it out. They're eliminating loose ends. What do? We move faster," Killian said. His voice had gone hard again, back to the commanding boss instead of the man who just laughed over pasta. "Vincent's team is hitting Richard's apartment tonight. We're going to find out who ordered this." "I'm coming with you," Isadora said. "Absolutely not," Killian said immediately. "Too dangerous." "You said I was part of this now," Isadora argued. "You said you needed my eyes. So I'm coming." They stared at each other, and Isadora could see the war in his expression. Wanting to protect her versus respecting her choice. "Fine," he said finally. "But you stay in the car. You observe only. No heroics." "No heroics," Isadora agreed, though she was already planning to ignore that if necessary. 2 hours later, Isadora sat in the back of an SUV across from Richard's apartment building. Killian was beside her, tense and focused. Vincent had gone in with 3 other men, and they were all waiting for information. The neighborhood was quiet. Isadora felt wrong about this but couldn't articulate why. Then gunshots exploded from inside the building. Killian cursed and reached for his own weapon. "Stay here," he ordered Isadora. "Lock the doors. If anything happens, you call the police and you run." He was gone before she could argue, disappearing into the building with backup following. Isadora sat alone in the car, her heart hammering against her ribs. She counted seconds, then minutes. More gunshots. Shouting. Then silence. The silence was worse than the noise. Isadora's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, "Leave now or everyone you care about dies." Her hands shook as she stared at the message. How did they have her number? How did they know she was here? Another text. "This isn't your fight, Isadora Saint. Walk away while you still can." They knew her name. Fear lanced through her, sharp and cold. But underneath the fear was anger. These people had hurt Antonio. Were trying to hurt Killian. Were threatening everyone she'd started to care about. A third text. "Last warning. Drive away or we kill Killian Knight in the next 5 minutes." Isadora's breath caught. This was a trap. Everything was a trap. They'd lured Killian here, and now he was inside with who knew how many enemies, and she was supposed to just sit here and let it happen? She'd spent her whole life being safe. Being invisible. Not anymore. Isadora grabbed the spare gun from the glove compartment, the one Vincent had insisted on showing her how to use last week. Her hands were steady now, all fear burned away by determination. She got out of the car and moved toward the building. The front door was propped open. Bodies littered the stairwell, unconscious or worse. Isadora stepped over them carefully, following the sounds of fighting to the second floor. Richard's apartment door hung open. Inside, Killian fought with 2 men while Vincent struggled with a third. Blood spattered the walls. Furniture was overturned. It was chaos. One of the men fighting Killian spotted Isadora and smiled. "Perfect," he said. "The girlfriend." He moved toward her, and Isadora raised the gun. Her hands shook now, but her voice didn't. "Stay back." The man laughed. "You won't shoot. Nice girls don't kill people." "You're right," Isadora said. "But I don't need to kill you." She shot him in the leg. The man screamed and went down, and the momentary distraction gave Killian the opening he needed to knock out his remaining opponent. "I told you to stay in the car," Killian said. He was breathing hard, blood on his knuckles. "I don't follow orders well," Isadora said. The gun felt heavy in her hands. "Probably something you should know about me." Vincent finished with his opponent and surveyed the room. "Well," he said, "this got complicated. Richard sat tied to a chair in the corner, looking terrified. "I'll talk," he said quickly. "I'll tell you everything. Just don't kill me." "Start talking," Killian said. What Richard revealed was worse than any of them had anticipated. He was working for the FBI. Or specifically, for a corrupt FBI agent named Jacob Reeves who'd been using Richard to gather evidence on Killian's organization. But Reeves had gotten greedy. Started selling information to the highest bidder. Started playing all sides against each other for profit. "He's the one who ordered Antonio shot," Richard said. "Said loose ends needed cleaning up. Said I was next if I didn't deliver something big." "Where is Reeves now?" Killian demanded. "I don't know," Richard said. "He contacts me. I never contact him." Killian pulled out his phone and made a call. Isadora couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Killian's face shift from anger to something darker. When he hung up, he looked at Vincent. "Sophia," he said quietly. "Sophia's been feeding information to Reeves. She's his inside source." Everything clicked into place. Sophia's questions at dinner. Her hostility toward Isadora. The timing of everything falling apart right after Killian started pulling away from her. "She wanted revenge," Isadora said. "You rejected her, so she decided to destroy you." "Apparently," Killian said. His voice was hollow. "I trusted her. She was family." "Not family," Vincent said coldly. "A traitor. What do you want us to do?" Isadora watched Killian struggle with the decision. She could see him weighing options, calculating responses. The old Killian would have ordered immediate violence. But he'd been trying to change. To be better. "We turn them both over to the actual FBI," Killian said finally. "Let them deal with their own mess. We provide evidence. We walk away clean." "That's risky," Vincent warned. "Everything's risky," Killian said. "But I'm tired of solving problems with violence. We do this the right way." Vincent looked skeptical but nodded. "Your call, boss." Later, after the police and the actual FBI had been called, after statements were given and evidence was handed over, Killian and Isadora sat in his office watching the sunrise. They were both exhausted, running on adrenaline and coffee. "You saved my life tonight," Killian said quietly. "If you hadn't come in when you did, if you hadn't distracted that guy, I probably wouldn't be sitting here." "I couldn't just wait," Isadora said. "I couldn't let something happen to you." "Because I'm your boss?" Killian asked. But there was something in his voice that suggested he already knew the answer. "No," Isadora said. "Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being just my boss. You became someone I care about. Someone I maybe more than care about." Killian turned to face her fully. "Isadora." "Don't," she interrupted. "Don't say anything you're going to regret. Don't make promises you can't keep. I know who you are. I know what your life is like. I'm going into this with my eyes open." "Going into what exactly?" Killian asked. "This," Isadora said, gesturing between them. "Whatever this is. Whatever it's becoming. I know it's complicated. I know it's probably going to be difficult. But I'm tired of being afraid. So if you want to try this, if you want to see where it goes, I'm willing to take that risk." Killian stood and crossed to her. He took her hands in his, and his expression was more open than she'd ever seen it. "I've spent my whole life being careful," he said. "Never letting anyone get close. But you got close anyway. You saw past all my walls and somehow decided I was worth caring about. So yes, I want to try this. I want to see where it goes. I want to be with you." He leaned down, and Isadora thought he might try to kiss her. Instead, he pressed his forehead against hers, just being present in the moment. "One day at a time," he whispered. "One day at a time," she agreed. 3 months later, Isadora stood in front of the bathroom mirror, this time wearing a red dress that made her feel powerful. Tonight was Killian's 31st birthday, and she'd spent the day planning a celebration that was equal parts elegant dinner party and excuse to see him smile. Things had changed since that night in Richard's apartment. Sophia and Jacob Reeves were both in federal custody, facing extensive charges. Antonio had recovered from his injuries and was working on rebuilding his marriage. The organization had stabilized under Killian's new leadership style, one that prioritized loyalty over fear. And Isadora was no longer invisible. She'd moved from her small staff quarters to a proper guest room, one that honestly might as well be Killian's room too, since they spent most nights together anyway. She'd started taking online classes to finish her degree. Killian had insisted on paying for it, and for once, Isadora had let someone help her without feeling weak. "You look beautiful," Killian said from the doorway. He wore a dark suit, his hair styled back, looking every inch the powerful man he was. But his smile was soft, private, just for her. "You're biased," Isadora said. "Extremely," Killian agreed. He crossed the room and wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. They looked at their reflection together, and Isadora barely recognized herself. She looked happy and confident. "Thank you," Killian said quietly. "For tonight. For everything. For changing my life." "We changed each other's lives," Isadora corrected. She turned in his arms. "That's how this works." The dinner party was perfect. Smaller than before, just the people Killian actually trusted. Antonio and Maria were there, working through things but present. Vincent was there with a date, some accountant he'd been seeing who made him almost smile. A few other captains and their families came, people who'd proven their loyalty. Nobody tried to kill anyone, which felt like progress. Isadora watched Killian laugh at one of Vincent's terrible jokes and felt warmth spread through her chest. This was real. They'd built something real together. After dinner, after the guests had left, Killian led Isadora up to the rooftop terrace. Chicago spread below them, all lights and possibilities. "I have something for you," Killian said. He pulled out a small box, and Isadora's heart stuttered. "If that's a ring, we need to have a serious talk about pacing," she said, trying to joke through her nerves. Killian laughed. "It's not a ring. Not yet anyway. Open it." Inside was a key on a silver chain. "It's to a building in Lincoln Park," Killian explained. "I bought it 6 weeks ago. The previous owner was a restaurant that failed, but the kitchen is still equipped. I thought maybe you could turn it into something. A bookshop with a cafe. A community center. Whatever you want. Something that's yours." Isadora stared at the key. "This is too much." "It's not enough," Killian said. "You gave me back parts of myself I thought were gone forever. You taught me how to be human again. This is just a building, Isadora. You deserve the whole world." "I don't want the whole world," Isadora said. Her eyes were getting misty, and she blinked rapidly. "I just want this. A chance to build something good." "Then let's build it," Killian said. "Together." They stood on the rooftop, holding each other while the city lights twinkled around them. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There would still be complications, still be dangers, still be days when things were hard. But they'd face it together. The phantom servant and the mafia boss, both learning how to be visible, both learning how to love without fear. 6 months after that, Isadora stood in her new bookshop cafe, surrounded by shelves she'd built and books she'd chosen and tables where people could sit and read and just exist. The space was warm, inviting, the opposite of invisible. Killian stopped by every afternoon at 3, regular as clockwork, to have coffee and whatever pastry Isadora had baked that morning. Today it was lemon scones, his favorite. "How's business?" he asked, settling into his usual chair by the window. "Good," Isadora said. She poured his coffee exactly how he liked it. "We had 12 people at this morning's book club. And that teenager I told you about, the one who's struggling at home? He's been coming every day after school to do homework. I think he just needs somewhere safe." "Like you did," Killian said gently. "Like I did," Isadora agreed. "Funny how life works. I spent so long being invisible, and now I'm creating a space for other invisible people to be seen." "You're amazing," Killian said. "You know that, right?" "I'm learning," Isadora said. She sat down across from him. "You're not so bad yourself. I heard you donated a bunch of money to that youth center in Antonio's neighborhood." "Anonymously," Killian said quickly. "Of course anonymously," Isadora said. "Because you're secretly a softie who doesn't want people to know you care." "If that gets out, my reputation is ruined," Killian said. But he was smiling. They sat together in comfortable silence, drinking coffee and watching people pass by outside. Isadora thought about how far they'd both come. From that first night when Killian had asked her to teach him how to be invisible, to now, when they were both learning how to be fully present in their lives. "I love you," Killian said suddenly. "I know we don't say it enough, but I do. I love you, Isadora Saint. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." "I love you too," Isadora said. Her heart was full, overflowing. "Even when you're being a dramatic mafia boss." "Especially when I'm being a dramatic mafia boss," Killian corrected. "Especially then," Isadora agreed. That night, they cooked dinner together in Killian's kitchen, making pasta from scratch again. It had become their tradition, their ritual. Every Sunday, just the two of them, creating something together. "You know what's funny?" Isadora said, rolling out dough. "A year ago, I was invisible. Nobody knew my name. Nobody cared what I thought. And now I have a business, a community, someone who loves me. It's like I'm living someone else's life." "It's your life," Killian said. He came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "You earned it. You built it. You deserve every good thing." "So do you," Isadora said. She turned to face him. "You're not your father. You're not what he tried to make you. You're kind and thoughtful and trying so hard to be better. I'm proud of you." Killian's eyes got suspiciously bright. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I needed to hear that." They finished making dinner, ate it while discussing their days, washed dishes side by side. Simple, domestic, perfect. This was what Isadora had been missing her whole life. Not grand gestures or dramatic moments. Just someone who saw her, chose her, loved her consistently. Later, lying in bed, Isadora traced patterns on Killian's chest. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Changing. Being different from what your father wanted." "Never," Killian said without hesitation. "Being what he wanted was killing me slowly. You saved my life in more ways than one." "We saved each other," Isadora said. "That's the whole point." "That's the whole point," Killian agreed. They fell asleep tangled together, the phantom servant and the mafia boss, both finally visible, both finally home. 1 year after that first conversation about invisibility, Isadora stood in Grant Park, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. Killian stood beside her, their fingers intertwined, both content in the comfortable silence they'd perfected. "Remember when you asked me what I wanted?" Isadora said. "That night we had ice cream after mini-golf?" "I remember," Killian said. "I wanted to matter," Isadora said. "I wanted to be seen. I wanted to build something meaningful. And I wanted to find someone who understood the invisible parts of me." "And?" Killian prompted. "And I got all of that," Isadora said. She looked up at him, this complicated man who'd let her in, who'd changed for her, who'd built a life with her instead of just letting her exist in his. "I got everything I wanted and things I didn't even know to hope for." "Me too," Killian said. "I wanted to be more than what my father made me. I wanted to lead differently. I wanted to find someone who saw past the power to the person underneath. You gave me all of that." "We gave each other all of that," Isadora corrected. "Fair point," Killian said. He pulled her closer. "So what now? What's the next dream?" Isadora thought about it. About the bookshop that was thriving. About the organization Killian had transformed into something that actually helped the community. About the life they'd built together, messy and complicated but real. "I think maybe the dream is just this," she said. "Just us. Building a life one day at a time. Choosing each other every single day." "I can work with that," Killian said. "One day at a time sounds perfect." They stood together as the sun disappeared below the horizon, ready for whatever came next. Because they'd learned the most important lesson. That being invisible was safe, but being seen, being truly seen by someone who loved all of you, was worth every risk. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Isadora and Killian's journey reminds us that being seen by the right person is worth every risk. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. Drop a red heart in the comments if you think Killian truly changed for the better, or the fire if you want more action-packed mafia romances. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next chapter of our world.